Good afternoon, everyone. Today we are starting our interview series, which we have titled "What's Editing Anyway?" and we will have Priya Talwar interviewing Dola Basu Singh, who is a fiction editor based in Punjab. So, over to you, Priya.
Thank you, Vivek, and thank you, Murugraj, as well. Without you two, I don't think me and Dola would have managed to do the tech bit. And of course, Vivek, the guy who started this all. So, I'd like to welcome you all to the inaugural series of the interviews by ICF. First of all, I'd like to introduce Dola. Dola is an independent fiction editor and also the author of an upcoming cozy mystery series. She's also the associate editor with Canada-based Darling Axe, and she's also written a non-fiction book for fiction writers about self-editing your own novel, right? So welcome, Dola. I hope you're excited. This is our first very interview, and as I'd mentioned, it's going to be in two parts, guys. Part one is going to be somewhat candid, less formal. I told her that it's going to be a rapid fire.
Okay.
Second is going to be hardcore editing, right? So let's begin the first part.
Okay.
Okay. So Dola, tell us a lie about a book you're currently working on.
Wow. Tell us a lie.
About a book.
It's a mystery. I'm going to play safe, yeah.
Okay, who's the writer? Tell us more about the writer. It has to be a lie.
It has to be a lie about the writer.
Yeah. Make it up.
Oh, wow. I don't know what to say to that. Well, the writer lives in India.
Okay. So what's the book you're writing about? Tell us in what one short sentence what is it about?
And this is not supposed to be a lie, right?
No.
Right. Okay, great. So actually, it's two books that I'm working on simultaneously. One is a fiction. It's a cozy mystery series. The protagonist is an Indian based here, and she solves mysteries with the help of her dog. And the second book is the second part of my non-fiction book. You know, I published the first part in January, self-editing boot camp. So the second book is the next in the series. So those are the two I'm working on right now.
Okay. What's the maximum number of books you have edited in 1 year? Your maximum could be any.
In 1 year, I don't know. I think about 20, because so far I've already edited 76 books. So I think my best was last year, 20, more than a book per month. So yeah.
Okay. What is the one trait you wish all your clients had? Now it could be anything, any small thing, as small as knowing the difference between M dash and long dash. You want all your clients to know at least one thing or have one particular quality.
I wish everybody, all the clients that came to me, they knew what exactly they were looking for. Because mostly I find that editing for an author is such a gray area, starting from proofreading and copy editing, line editing, and then developmental editing, and that is not really clear to them. So maybe we should do something to fix that as well, because
there should be a kunji for authors, all kinds of authors. One go to kunji.
Yeah, right.
What is the one trait or quality that's common to all your clients? Like every client you work with, you have that one quality, one trait, or maybe there's one thing they all know.
Enthusiasm for their book. They're also excited, and that makes me as an editor excited to work with them, on their project. It's if somebody is just publishing and then it's and somebody else for whom it's a dream, it's always best to as an editor to work with an excited author who's excited about their work.
Okay, next question. If not editing, what would you do to earn your income?
I would be writing, definitely, full time.
Great, great. Okay, two more questions. These are like fill in the blanks. So editing is easy because
For me, because I guess I've always been doing it. I've always worked with language, whether it was reading or writing or now editing.
okay. So next one is going to be easier. Editing is hard for you because
Editing is hard because there is still so much that I don't know. Like we've all, taken so much training and we attend webinars and read so many books. And I feel that there's still so much that we could do better or we could know about it. So I guess upskilling ourselves, updating, keep ourselves updated. That's a big task. Yeah.
that's all of, I think it's very, very relatable because we've been doing it. I think it's just by default, it's in our system, in our hardwire, it's just installed. And I understand, there are challenges even, after 10 years of working, it's
Oh, definitely.
become like 1 + 1 2. It's never that, right? So thanks a lot. You did very well. Vivek and Murugraj should be responsible for a hamper. And I'm sure people are liking the rapid fire, so maybe some applause will do. Okay, so now we'll begin the formal part of the interview. It's nothing like formal, but it's really still going to be a chat between two editors. I'll quickly introduce myself. I have worked as a commissioning editor with a traditional publishing house, and right now I'm working independently, and I primarily help authors develop their ideas into credible stories. What I want to do here today is, if you guys notice the title of the series, it's called What's Editing Anyway? So, for the most of us editors here, we love what we do and we could talk about it endlessly, right? But I wanted to instead raise a question: what is it anyway? What is the damn big deal about editing? What is the damn big deal about us editors? What is it that we do any which way? Why is it so important? Is it that important? What is the real value of it? And I want to do this so that we have a space where we can converse about it and do it in a very honest, transparent manner, right? And
Wonderful.
so, so this is what my plan is. I've started writing blogs as well about this. That's the series of the blogs as well. It's called What's Editing Anyway. So I'd like you to, invite you, Dola, to also have a look at them and maybe write about that topic. It's completely up to you. Your perspective is the right perspective.
I would love that. Thanks.
So tell me, what did you think about this? Like this question, what's editing anyway? What comes to your mind when I say, what is it anyway? Like editing hi to hai. What's the big deal?
This question is probably foremost in every author's mind, right? Just spelling, grammar, punctuation ही तो check करना है. What's the big deal? However, not having a book edited could very well prove to be a deal breaker when it really matters. And editing is so much more than spelling, grammar, punctuation, style, because like I said in the rapid fire round, there's so many different aspects to it. There are so many different approaches to how you can see editing. Like spelling, grammar, punctuation is basically copy editing or proofreading, however, editing is not just getting the language perfect. It's also about getting the story, the characters, the structure of the book. It doesn't matter if it's fiction or non-fiction.
We'll get to this. All
Right.
these
So,
things, right? The difference between covering the language bit and covering the story bit. My next question will cover all of this. I want to quickly read, a quote by this director producer Sean Penn. He said this very famously that great editing. He talks about editing in the context of films. So he says, great editing will protect a director from suicide, and I don't think it's any different for books.
probably, like I said, it could be a deal breaker. It could mean difference about, it could mean the difference if you're going to win an award or not, or you're going to land an agent or a publisher or not, or the most basic difference, it could mean whether a reader picks up the book or not, or
So
takes a look at the first page and then feels compelled enough to turn the page or not, or just, puts your book aside, it could mean the world to them.
Exactly. When you say, the picks up the book and compel, I think editors can also do great copy, sharp copy. That's
Definitely.
something, like a good marketing person can do. Okay, great. So I'm going to begin with the first formal question per se. In the 21st century, there are skills that are required to survive as well as thrive, and three of them are very critical. And I feel as editor, we use them on a daily basis. These are critical analysis, creativity, and problem solving. So when I look at these and I look at my work, every day we're looking at a different challenge every day. Even if it's the same manuscript or project you're dealing with, say for a few weeks, for a few months, or maybe a year or more, you still look at the manuscript and try and look for new angles, and you can only do that when you are completely objective about it. Second, you can be critical and raise questions that are critical to the author, critical to the story. And if you're not solving the problem, whether it's appearing on the page, whether it's hidden, whether it's to do with the author's expectations,
Right.
I wouldn't think we would be able to deliver what we are delivering, right? So I want you to think about these skills and tell me, when you're talking about, say, story structure, copy editing, developmental editing, how do you think of the smallest of the thing you do, the biggest of the thing you do? Say, how do you use critical analysis, creativity, and problem solving in your day-to-day work?
I think, like you said, it's these three skills, they are embedded everywhere. It doesn't matter, it's not just the craft of editing, but also the business side of it. Whether we are actually editing the book or we are convincing a client to hire us. Let's start with the hiring thing. So maybe a author contacts me and they have a limited budget, and what I'm quoting is way above that, but I want to work on the book, or the author wants to hire me. How do we come to a conclusion, a meeting ground? How do we make it so that it's beneficial for both the parties, the author as well as the editor? So all these three skills, critical thinking and creativity, finding out the best solution for the problem, I think that would come handy there also.
So true.
And also, yeah, I'm
Hmm.
sorry.
So true. I think, when you're talking about negotiation, creating a pitch, I think creating a pitch is basically, communicating who you are, what you offer. So in that, if you're not creative as
Hmm,
a communicator, if you're
exactly.
not showing them, look, I'm solving a problem that's unique to your project, I think
Hmm,
just, fall apart. So I'm so glad you're saying that when it comes to the business side of it, when it comes to negotiating, when it comes to projecting yourself as an editor, as a professional, it's key that
definitely.
you remember you still have to be objective. You still have to assess what the client needs, what she may benefit from. You might deliver more, but
Right.
the author might not want all of it. So you're not going to suddenly reduce your charges. How do you be smart about it? How
Hmm.
communicate in a manner that's creative, that's humane, that it has some emotion to it. So I'm so glad you're saying that business part of it also needs all these skills.
Right. Business as well as the craft. The craft, it will definitely. And I think when it comes to the craft of editing, the creative thinking and critical analysis, they're actually not different skills, they are actually complementary skill sets to each other, because we are using both these. I'm using creativity and critiquing the manuscript, and the objective is to solve a problem that I noticed there on the manuscript, or a problem that the author wants me to address in their manuscript, right? So these two skills will go hand in hand when it comes to problem solving.
Also, I think, when we say problem solving to authors, most beginning authors, they don't see it as problem. When I say it, whatever they have written, they don't necessarily see there is a problem there. However, we have to first identify, assess, look, this is probably what the author wanted to talk about. However, there is another possible better way. The option is something that we can provide. We can show them, yes, there is a problem, however it's manageable. So we're solving problems that are probably hidden, like hidden to a lot of authors. And of course, as you do more of editing or writing or of any of it, then you gather more about your own self. So the editor really is helping you understand your work, what you want to do, and how you can deliver best instead of, doing something someone else wants you to do. So I'm very glad you've raised that point. I want to give an example of, creativity, something that I of course use creativity in, say, my pitch or my assessment, for example. However, I think we also use creativity for our own selves, for the betterment of our own, work or productivity. For instance, there is a trick I've used. So often, dealing with clients independently, it gets tough. It's inevitably true. It's not easy. And I'm dealing with the problem I'm facing with the author, not necessarily what is on the page. So I make two columns. One is, what I really want to say to the author. Look, this is what's happening. This is what I can do. This is just not happening. And then I look at the other column and I say, what would you, Priya, say as a professional? And it works. It helps me calm down, and that's important because we as editors are also people who feel stuff, right? So if I'm being creative, I definitely want to feel good about it, and I definitely want the other person to see it, right? But a lot of the times they won't see it, right? Because it's something that I'm doing for myself, for my productivity. So I think that all these skills, we use it in inevitable, so many different ways, and it's different for everyone. So I'm sure there are other people who can maybe at the end of the session share examples of how do you be creative, how do you, be critical, what kind of problems do you think you've solved and you felt good about it. So if I can ask you, maybe can you give us an instance of something you solved as an editor, something that was taking you time to understand, and when you nailed it, when you cracked it, could be a para, could be one story, could be, making a pitch, anything. It could be anything in your experience.
Where I use my creativity.
No, wherever you felt that you helped, solve a problem for the author. Could be something to do with the story, could be something otherwise not related to the story.
Okay, so this was during the early days in my career. Okay, and I was new to editing at that point, and my author, my client, was also new in that it was their first book. So it was a romance, and when I started reading it, I went till the fifth chapter, and then I got confused because suddenly who I thought was the protagonist was dead, and there was somebody else taking their place. So you know, romance as a genre has very particular tropes, and readers expect those tropes in your book. Romance readers are the most voracious readers of all. Romance is the highest top most selling genre ever,
Yeah.
right? And those readers are so voracious, and they're reading one book per day, and they bring such a lot of experience with them when they pick up another book,
So
that they
true.
expect, yeah, they don't know what a trope is, right? I mean, that's just editor speak, but
Exactly.
they have that experience. They expect certain things, and so if you're going to kill off your protagonist, start with somebody else and then kill them off in the fifth chapter, and somebody else is there, so that is not something they're going to take lightly, and a lot of, the author would definitely be facing a lot of criticism.
How did you?
So yeah, so I think I was new at the time, and I was like, how do I say this to the author? This is like, would they be, because I'm talking about changing the complete structure of the book. I'm talking about making the fifth chapter as the first chapter, and the first five chapters to include as a backstory, little bit here and there somewhere. So it's
Wow.
like a complete overhaul. And however, I think what helped was I didn't email it to her in so many words. I asked her to give me a number that I want to talk something out with you. And then I called her, and then so
A
there's
call.
always a difference between no, hearing someone's voice and knowing what their tone is, how they're coming from, and just a simple email where you don't know what they're feeling when they're saying it. So I think that helped out a lot. because nobody wants to, there's this book that they've written and spent so many, I don't know how many years working on it. And then as an editor, you're just completely asking to change. It's difficult for any author. It would be difficult for me, right? If somebody asked me, because I'm taking like 6 years to write one book. And then if I have to change it,
What did you get?
right? So basically, no, I told the author that this was the problem and they agreed. But I guess they agreed quickly and readily because we were on a phone call instead of just an email, wherein, I don't know how many days we would have exchanged emails, wherein just a half an hour of the phone call and it was solved. So I think, yeah, that's one I could remember clearly.
Actually, it reminds me of a problem I did not solve. I was literally, this was probably my first or second fiction copy editing. Uh, and I had really no idea because I was dealing with the publisher's editor and I couldn't really directly talk to the author. And I did not
Okay.
know that I could have asked or whatever. So there were a lot
Right.
of instances of just, sexist sentences and stuff like that. And I just marked it and I raised questions and comments. And because I was so excited and passionate, I probably marked all of it, right? Instead of now,
Okay.
you can just write a note and an email and give, okay, I've marked a few examples, right? Let's get on.
Mm.
I marked everything, every comment, like just passionate. I have to be sincere about it. And the man got like super, super offended. So thankfully,
Oh,
get on a call, nothing happened. I wasn't fired or anything. But I know today that had I not, had I not overwhelmed the author, had I just retained a few comments, had more discipline in terms
just
of if I have 10 comments, just,
right.
just
Just
make
yeah,
sure.
just make two. Yeah, right.
Why do I have to
I
show it?
understand where you're coming from.
Poor soul. But I know that book is something I wouldn't recommend. Anyway, so I'll go to the second question. Okay. Okay. So, your testimonial page is very interesting. It shows three authors whose work has won some award or the other, right? Kindle Direct. It's called Kindle Direct Award.
Amazon Kindle Pen to Publish.
Okay, great. So I want
Right.
to ask you, did you know these guys were submitting for an award? How did you come to know? What was your reaction? How did you feel knowing that, you have contributed to that book?
All the three books that won these awards, one was way back in, when I had started in 27. Not really, not when I started, because I started in 2015. This was in 2017, I guess. So that book won an honorable mention, but didn't really win the award. But
Hmm.
that set up the stage, I guess, for because I had observed the whole journey, the author's journey, and what were the steps needed. So these last two books that won, we knew from the very beginning that we would be targeting those awards. So one was a short book, like
Novella?
11,000 words. Yeah, not really a novella, just like a novelette, I guess. 11,000 words.
Hmm.
And so Kindle Direct Publishing, this Amazon KDP is the largest self-publisher, right?
Hmm.
So they come up with this contest every year. This happens every year. And this is like the biggest contest for self-publishers. Um, both my authors, Varsha, who wrote the long novel, and Vijay, who won the short story award, both of them knew that we wanted to target those awards. So my editing was definitely directed towards that. But editing is not the only thing that can win the award, right? I mean, it's the writer's talent also, and plus nowadays, especially in self-publishing, a lot of marketing also. But yes, we knew from the very beginning that we would be targeting the awards. So
That's good.
there was a lot of thinking into how to perfect the hook, how to make the first chapter the best that it can be.
Can you tell us,
So
can you quickly give the the titles of both the books so that in case readers want to look it up?
sure. The novel is called X Factor. It's by Varsha Dikshit. She's also an ICF member, by the way. She's in the group. So that's the third book in the series. So if you want to start the series, you might want to start from the first book, which is The Wallflowers. It's a short book, and then you can get into the series.
Hmm.
The other one is Who Killed the Kaniz. It's by Vijay Kakwani, Vivek.
Hmm.
So that is not really a mystery, but really a heart-touching historical drama kind of thing,
Hmm.
set in the erstwhile era. So,
Okay, tell us one thing that's common to both these books in terms of your editing. Like, what did you make sure in terms of what you were delivering, what you were saying? Was there one thing common to both these?
like I said, we knew that we want to target the awards and readers who might buy the book, or even judges who will be reading the book. They sometimes, I don't know, maybe sometimes they read the whole book, sometimes maybe they don't just read the beginning. I don't know how that works, right? We didn't know how that works.
Yeah, yeah.
We needed to make sure, the first thing that we needed to make sure that the book sells, and how you do that is by copywriting, right? How you do that is by writing the perfect blurb
Hmm.
or the book description on
Yeah.
Amazon. So Varsha wrote the description, and then I don't know, we went it through like 7-8 times to make sure it hit all the points that a blurb needs to have.
Good, good, good.
And the beginning also of the books, like I said, the first few chapters, you couldn't put the book down, definitely. Even if, and since Varsha's book was like the third book in the series, right? It wasn't the first book. All the characters and all, we had already established that. So we didn't really have so much space to
Yeah, understandable.
start and right. So it was all the more important that readers feel engaged with. It could be just maybe somebody has not read the first two books, and maybe a judge will just start reading this third book, right? So it had to be.
Happens always with series. So I'm glad. Let's pick up both the books that she's mentioned. Okay, so my next
Yeah.
question is, so you've been working independently for how long now? Is it like almost a decade?
No, 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 no. 5-6 years,
Okay.
almost 6 now.
So I
Yeah.
want to ask you, especially this is for editors who are starting out, who new, who beginning.
Hmm.
So tell
Hmm.
us about, when you face isolation, because you really have to work, everything you have to do yourself, customer interface, taking calls, explaining to clients, educating them, educating your edits, then, negotiating for the pitch you make, everything you have to do. You have to do your marketing, you're writing your book so that you can, have resources for your clients. So tell us, when it gets lonely, when it starts to feel lonely, what are the things that you've tried? What are the things that have worked?
So there are two things that I would suggest. The first thing is, there are so many great groups on Facebook for editors, like our own Indian Copy Editors Forum, right? But I discovered it a little bit later in the journey. I started with Editors Association of Earth. I think that's the first group that I joined. And then EAE Backroom. And then from there, I noticed Vivek, he had posted some comment, and I was like, wow, here's an Indian editor. Maybe I can get in touch with him. And then I saw that he had this group. So then I joined ICF. So having a community of like-minded individuals where you can ask questions or doubts, or just maybe just share something, it's very important for, especially for us freelancers who are.
Apart from
Uh,
having virtual communities, like what else can we do?
the
Because
second thing is having your own mastermind group. So I have like, we are three people. We have a mastermind group wherein we discuss everything related to editing, writing, craft, business, payments. So just to have that forum where you can, because nothing on Facebook is really private, right?
that's what I was going to
You
ask.
need
You
to,
mean this is like a
exactly.
closed group of your friends who happen to be editors, something like that?
That's right,
Wow,
exactly.
wonderful, beautiful.
So so having that is essential, definitely.
Okay, we have a question coming up, even though I had one question left. So how
So
much do you spend time on training yourself? Like, do you have an average, say, in terms of number of hours per week?
if I'm actively taking a course,
Yes.
then I do spend time every single day. Otherwise, also, if I'm not taking a course, I'm always reading. So I'm reading 2 books at a time, a fiction and a non-fiction. And the non-fiction one is usually related to the craft of writing. And I read every day. So I would I would put that as training, definitely. So
But
I'm actually I know
subconsciously,
we can see it, right?
reading might not seem like work, but it is work for editors. Like the other day,
Definitely.
did a tweet asking, how has your work affected your leisure reading? And I said, I usually fall into, phases. Sometimes I'm reading and working, but sometimes it's like I'm totally working and I can't enjoy reading and I start to feel guilty or I start to miss it. Then I hear others talking about, oh, I'm reading 5 books at a time. But I think it's just about, accepting whatever has worked for you. So if I get
True, true.
minutes every day, I'll be happy. But to be honest, I don't manage to read for leisure every day. Instead, I'll just edit, write, edit, write.
Okay.
So I want
So
for you
yeah.
after that we quickly end this and we can open it to the audience. So I want
Okay.
you to share an experience with us. One of your most difficult negotiation with client. I'm asking because for a lot of us, we don't get to talk about it. We don't understand what to do, how to do. So I'll break up this part into smaller questions. So you
Mhm.
obviously have to give us the details. You can keep it anonymous. You want to change some details, feel free to do that. Tell us
Mhm.
first, from whatever you remember, what were the qualities of the client? Qualities could be as simple as educated, modern, traditional, could be anything that you observed, articulate, professional.
You mean during a negotiation,
No, just
particularly?
the type of a client. One has to first understand, what kind of a client he or she is, where is she coming from.
How I do that is simply by when I first get their email, I ask them for a. Most people don't attach a sample because they're just looking to get some information from me. So I'd ask them for a sample of their book, and I also have a few questions that I ask. For example, if they want to self-publish it or they want to pitch it to publishers. The next would be what is their vision for the book. The second would be, is there something they want me to concentrate on while editing? For example, if they think that their characters are weak, so I'll pay more attention to that during the edit.
Adula,
Things like that.
I have to interrupt you. The question is, tell us your experience of dealing with a very tough client in terms of
Tough,
negotiation. Yes. Share
tough
it.
client. I thought that, okay, all right.
Tell us your
A
experience.
tough client.
There's so many. Tell us.
Actually, I don't know. I think it's the other way around. Not really. I wouldn't really say tough, as in, okay, so someone, I'll give you an experience, of a recent client. So she has this beautiful book, and she sent me this, and I know her for a long time. She's also in an authors group that I belong to. So I really wanted to do that. I wanted to take that project on. However, her budget and my estimate were not really aligned. But I didn't want to say no to her. She has been always, supportive, and I really liked the sample chapter that she sent me.
Hmm.
So I was excited to work on that project also. And I guess that that creativity part you said earlier, I guess I applied that, because how in a developmental editing we send the edits plus the editorial report, right? And in the line editing, I would do the line edits and send the style sheet. So anyway, so this was for a line editing project, and so I suggested to her that you know I normally make a style sheet if you want to get the book proofread or for later on during the publishing process.
Yeah, yeah,
And it takes me a lot of time to do
yeah,
that.
yeah,
So at
yeah,
least, like, I don't know, 3-4 hours, right? So I asked her that since we have this budget constraint,
yeah.
maybe I will not make the style sheet, share the style sheet with you, and then it falls in within your budget. So neither am I losing something, and nor are you, if you don't really need that style sheet. So
That's actually
we did come to an agreement. So I could reduce the price, and I guess it was a win-win. And I think that's when the creativity came in part. So,
That's the
so
key
yeah,
to any negotiation. It has to be win-win. Like it sounds cliche, but it's very true. You know, you don't want to win, you know, yourself and the other party feels bad about it. That it doesn't work in the long.
definitely, because I do want to get her next book too, right? I want to edit her next one and the next one and the next one. So, of
Good,
course,
good,
it
good,
makes
good.
sense. Yeah,
Lola,
it's
we have a
not
lot
just
of
a one-off. Okay,
questions
sure, sure. Sorry.
coming up. So, any advice for aspiring authors, techniques or methods that will help you write a good book? So, aspiring authors and advice from your experience as an editor. Actually, just make
If I said study the
hmm.
writing craft, it would be too cliche, will it be?
No, it's true. And people underestimate it. There are thousands of amazing books available on writing. People should really read it. You know, if you've written a book, great. Even then, you should read it.
So I feel, yeah, right, exactly. So
Mhm.
for my advice to make the book better
Yeah.
would be to first, you've all of us, I guess most authors, they read up on the craft of writing and they write this book. I think it's important for everybody to know a little bit of editing also. I'm not really talking about, I don't care whether grammar or punctuation is your strong point or not, but just to have an idea of the how a basic structure of a book should be, especially if you're writing in a genre that has some, if I'm writing a mystery, there has to be a red herring and there has to be these four or five characters that will be suspected one after the other. And so if having a basic knowledge of the tropes of your genre could even help. So I guess
And
that is something one should definitely study about.
so for the person who's asked this question, you know, remember first whatever is your genre identified. If it's a massy genre, commercial genre, or if it's a niche genre, if it's very, very small for a small audience, understand what your genre is. Read as many books from that genre and try and find out if they're writing
Hmm.
on that genre. And that
Right.
means not to work, but it in the end, you know, the reader feels good. You feel good about the work you've done. So if
Exactly.
there's work involved, it is worth it. Don't feel overwhelmed that you know you have to write one book, but you have to read 100. It's okay.
Totally. Right.
So you have another question, which is how do you keep yourself motivated? I think the question should have some context. You know, editing is hard. Doing it alone, everything yourself, and especially in times like these, of course you will feel demotivated, right? People don't understand what's editing, what's the value of it. People ask, how much do you earn? Do you earn anyway? You probably just proofread. So there are difficulties for all of us, right? So tell us first, what is your difficulty, and then what do you do to keep yourself motivated? Like, what do you do to get yourself back on the track?
I think the most uh, difficult thing I face daily is just to get those 5 hours down at a stretch. It's a struggle to start at 10 every day and then end at 2, right? There's you have your kids at home, everyone wants to eat all the time, and I don't know, I have 4 dogs, so
My
every
God.
time the call bell goes, all of them are like barking at the same time. So it's a struggle to get to the desk and keep at it for 4 or 5 hours. I guess that's at
That's
least during
very
this pandemic.
relatable. That's so true. You know, like editors now working from home. Yeah, we freelance editors have been working from home since forever, right? So,
We
but
have done it forever, right? But still, it's such a struggle because now everybody is at home when usually it was just us, right?
what I hear Dola saying is, I wish I could kick out all the family members and keep the dogs. 5 hours,
Probably.
10 hours of work. But I agree, you know, like feeling productive, keeping yourself, you know, sticking to a schedule sounds all great, but of course, you know, like
Yeah,
there
it's
are
a
days you're not managing very well. So let's see if we have more questions.
sure.
Oh, so someone has asked you about so okay. So since we've talked about training, can you maybe share, you know, the financials involved? So have you ever made an average, say in 2017, I spent average this much on my training. Then did you figure out was it worth it? Were you like, having
Although
uh,
training is definitely worth it, and the best thing about it is I can claim them, whatever training or whatever business expenses I spend, I claim them in my tax. I gave all the details to my CA, and he does whatever he does. And so having training is so crucial, so crucial when, especially in our profession, when there is no benchmark for anybody to start editing, right? I mean, somebody who teaches English in high school could say, I'm a proofreader.
yeah,
Uh,
and she can do a good job.
Compare that to
Yeah.
somebody like me who has, like spent, I've done a course from PTC, from CIP, I've done from EFA, I've done Luis's course, Holly's course. So somebody like me who's constantly upgrading themselves, taking memberships in association, and somebody just, somebody who's just starting out, maybe not with so much training, uh, having that and having that training and thinking of it as an investment in your business instead of just thinking of it as an expenditure. We spend money, but we don't really get anything by that, right? However, when we invest the money, we are expecting some returns. So when you invest in training, you will get better, you'll get better paying clients. I mean, you don't really, if you have a fractured leg, you go to a doctor and not to a somebody who does jhar pooch, right?
Hmm.
You expect some training from them. Similarly, authors should expect and ask for training, what kind of training an editor has.
It's a very
And
important, for authors that, like we talk, how we have to sometimes educate authors. It's true that authors probably don't know enough about what kind of courses your editor has done. So it's always fair and okay to ask, have you or have you not? If they have, please don't, jump to any conclusions that because she's not done a course, etc., she cannot deliver. That's
no,
not
definitely not.
to decide. Instead, ask them, can you give me a sample? Can I see your work? Can I see this,
Hmm.
etc.,
True.
etc. But training definitely gives you an edge. It gives you
Edge.
X factor and it gives you confidence. Because you know what you're doing and you can do better. So you can juggle with so many things. You can customize as per the need of the client. Once you
Hmm.
have that sort of exposure, like for a surgeon, you need that exposure, right? You can't just be performing one kind of surgery with one kind of co-surgeon. You need to expose yourself as an architect. You need to expose yourself as an anthropologist. So exposure is what you get when you go for trainings, right? We have
Absolutely.
two new questions, not much time left. Oh, have you ever faced a writer's block and how do you deal with it?
Oh, I've been facing it for a long time. My editing brain is such that I have so much trouble. I guess that's why I'm writing my book for such a long time now. I'm still writing it. So it's a real struggle. Writer's block, especially being an editor, absolutely always analyzing myself, whether this is right or not, whether I should say like this or not. But now I'll give you a solution also. So the best solution that I found is called sprinting, wherein I'll put the timer on for 20 minutes and shut all distractions, disconnect myself from the internet, turn off the phone, and I'll just write for 20 minutes without thinking anything, without thinking of no commas or full stop, anything, without just let it flow.
That
That's the
works.
only way. Yeah, that's the only way I found that I could write nowadays, at least. If I start like I have 2 hours, wow, I have 2 hours today, then I'll not get anything done in, not even half a page done in those 2 hours. But I get a lot of things, a lot of writing done in just 20 minutes. So
Okay. You want to take the question? There is a question. Do you suggest giving some time after finishing writing anything and then begin editing? Or do you start editing as soon as you finish writing? I'm assuming they mean if you finished your novel writing, you go to your editing, your client's editing soon after, do you give a gap? How do you do this?
my writing and editing, okay. So I found out over these 5 6 years that my editing brain is optimum for like 5 hours maximum. If I do more editing than that, either I make mistakes, I miss something, or I introduce something, an error, which is like more dangerous than, actually missing something.
Yeah, you can be sued for that.
So yeah, so I only edit for 5 hours. The rest of the time could be marketing my business or doing a course or writing my own book or whatever else. But I only edit for 5 hours a day.
Okay, so suppose in the first 2 hours of the day, 10 to 12, you finished writing your novel, hypothetically. How much gap will you give before you get to edit?
Let me just share my schedule. I get up at 4 in the morning and I start writing at 4:30, and then I stop at 6. So 1.5 hours every day I do that. And after 6, I go to, I take my dogs for a walk, then I cook breakfast and lunch for the family, whatever chores I have to finish. And then I sit at my desk at 10. So like 6 to 10, that's like 4 hours. And then 10 to 2, I'll edit. And then after that, I'll probably just, faff around with my friends or go to Facebook, or I don't know, just market my business, write an article, a blog post, or post something on Twitter, just anything. Just I've made it a point to just do one thing every day to market my business. So I'll just do that one thing, and I call it a day after that. Otherwise, I've edited so many books, and I used to take on, client after client after client, and like always editing, and it led to a burnout pretty fast. So this is the lesson that I've learned.
I think for creative professionals, you cannot be working 7 days doing your core work. And I'm saying it very specifically. If you work Monday to Sunday, sure. But I personally feel that if you're a creative professional, you cannot be designing, editing, writing Monday to Sunday. You'll never get any perspective. And you
Mhm.
feel that, you will feel frustrated. Of course, in any sort of a
Right.
day, burnout is inevitable, but it's just the
Mhm.
sort of things you can do. And for that, I want to go back quickly to the mastermind group you mentioned. It sounds exciting. Can you please share more about who these people are? How can one form another group for ourselves? What kind of things you should do? What kind of things you should not do?
The other people are Sonia Rao and Rubina Ramesh. So we three have a group. All of them are writers, and except Rubina, Sonia, and me are editors also. In fact, Sonia mentored me at the beginning of my career
Hmm.
to teach me editing.
Hmm.
So um, these are people who Rubina is also a client for me. I've edited many of her books, but she was my friend much longer before that. We were part of a writing group.
How does that relationship work? Friend and someone who's also a client, like
Very complicated.
yeah.
Rubina, if you're watching, just note that down.
Okay,
You're a
talk to
complicated person. It works because now we are. I started editing for her much later on. Like I told you, we were friends much early on. We This mastermind group was for as a writing, as writers, and then we modified it to for editing also, for everything in our life.
But
So
how did you find them? Like finding a close, trusted group is difficult, right? How do you
I
find?
found them both on. There's a Facebook group. I'm not sure if you know about NaNoWriMo or not. So
Yeah, yeah.
NaNoWriMo, yeah, okay, great. So NaNoWriMo has an India chapter also, and
Ah,
Sonia has been the ML for NaNoWriMo for like forever. And so she has a Facebook group that she runs wherein she motivates writers, not only during November but whole year through. So when I first started writing 2012, I think 2012, that's when I joined the group, and Rubina also. And I started editing much later, at 2015. So that's where I found them, Sonia and Rubina, in that group. It doesn't have to be a Facebook group. You can find your mastermind group anywhere, offline also. If you go to an office, or if you go to a co-op space, or a shared office, or work there. And even online, I guess online is much easier to find. You just have to find somebody you click with, and then you trust.
I
That's
think
it.
it's very important for people working by themselves every day. It's important to have
Mhm.
a support group, and I'm very sure people have started to feel more free to ask questions. I see a lot of people acting very proactively, helping each other out on ICF. So for the people who are new to this chat, please be a member of ICF groups on WhatsApp. It's a great platform. You get all sorts of questions. You can help each other out. You can seek any help you need. We have one more question, but I want to ask you a more critical question. You've named the two people of the mastermind group, but I want to know the names of your dogs.
Okay. So I actually had 5, but I lost one. So now I only have 4. The eldest is Chiku. Next comes Moti. Then there's Kishmish and Moni. So these 4. And the one we lost was called Lachi. So Kishmish and Lachi were like sisters.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, so we
Yeah.
have probably less than 10 minutes left. How,
Okay.
someone's asking, how did you become a part of Darling Axe?
Okay. So another ICF member and a very good friend of mine, Surit Das, he told me about the opportunity. He just emailed me that, he saw this opportunity in a blog. And I looked at the website and I was like, wow, it seems like such a great opportunity, but am I really, does it fit me? Do I fit their profile? And does this job fit my profile? So I didn't apply immediately. I sat thinking about it, and then I started noting down my strengths, because I'm a really uh, I don't know, I'm not really easy on myself. I judge myself too much. I should probably stop that, but I do. So I listed out all my strengths and all, and then I kept matching to what they were asking, and then I found out that I fit most of it, like 80%. And there was just a couple of things that I didn't do, and I was like, I should take a chance, right? If I fit 80% of the profile that that they're asking for. So I had never really applied for a job, so I didn't have a CV. That was the first obstacle. So I started reading on resumes, and I'm pretty anal like that. I have to research and do everything. Like, so I found out that a functional, I think they call it a functional resume. So a functional resume would be best for my skills. So I read up on that. Then I made my resume, made the cover letter, and tailored the cover letter, especially for Darling X, to what they were asking. Made sure I highlighted my award-winning books and my membership with CIEP and my training, right? That I'm trained, I'm qualified, because it's um, so difficult to land a job, which is not Indian. So anyway, let's not go into that. But I made sure that I tailored everything so that my skills and my training were topmost, in front of their eyes. So I think that got me the call. But I guess what helped me land the job was actually the training that I had already invested in and already done. So I can honestly say that if I had not done those fiction editing courses, or those, the training that I took from EFA or CIP, I might not have landed the job, because the selection, the tests were not
Easy.
easy, especially when such accomplished editors are judging you, judging the way you edit or approach something.
Yeah, I
So
understand,
yeah,
as editors, we have that, imposter syndrome. We do enough, but we never really give ourselves a credit. And there's one reason for it, because editors are invisible, right? And it's supposed to be like that. However, I
supposed to be.
think
Yeah.
internally having a group like what you have is probably one way to, to know objectively what your strengths are. And of course, sometimes just writing them down like you did, nothing better than that. Write what you know is your strength. So of course, be proactive, stay on ICF and groups like ICF. Definitely look for advice on training for especially people who are new to trainings and certifications. I have two more questions actually. Pushpanjana is asking, so she wants to know how much after finishing your book should you self-edit it? Like you finished your book, how much should you self-edit? Should you self-edit it immediately or should you give it some time?
Definitely give it some time. We are not really objective when we would be more objective. That's how I should say it. We would be more objective if we stop thinking about for a while, give it a rest, do something else. So I would ideally suggest a month, but if you're self-publishing, you might not have that leverage. You might not have that time, because self-publishing is such a busy, demanding, I guess, demanding lifestyle, that you might not have a month. So at least give 2 weeks, start another project, start writing another book, or start editing another book, not the one that you just finished. Give it a rest for at least 2 weeks,
Hmm.
because I feel that our unconscious brain, when it always keeps working, and something that you didn't think about, if you leave it alone for a while and come back to it, you would catch that more easily.
I
So
agree. But I want to qualify it. Yes, of course, distancing yourself physically, mentally, from something creative that you are so involved with, right? You
yeah,
have to give it a break. Otherwise, you're not going to have any perspective. And when you ask for feedback, you will not feel great about it. If
absolutely.
you're deciding today, you give it tomorrow for the feedback, it comes a week later. You're not going to like it. You have to be sure of what you wanted to write about, why you're doing this, why do you want to get published, do you want to get mileage out of it, is there a brand you want to promote? First, you have to understand your own aims and desires. I am writing a book for different reasons than Dola is, right? So know
Hmm.
exactly why you're writing, why do you want to get published, and in that process, then you have to understand, okay, if I'm writing to promote my brand, if my book will only and only promote my brand, then how soon or how late can I publish it so that it benefits the brand? On that basis, work out a schedule from the reverse, then figure out if I have to publish by December, end of the year, I can promote my business. How much time do I have left? Itne time mein I can, write, itne time mein I can give a break. So understand your needs. Why are you doing whatever you're doing? And on that basis, figure out what will be the best solution for your book. There cannot be one fixed answer to this question, especially when it's so creative and it's so subjective.
But definitely give a break.
Yes, let's see.
Yeah, definitely give a break.
Okay, we have still questions coming in, and that's great to hear. Do you have a newsletter?
I do, which I neglect so much. Oh my God. I have a newsletter which I started with all great intentions of, sharing tips with people. But I don't know, I've completely neglected that. I should probably get back to it, and at least apologize to those people who are, looking forward to getting some tips. So I started in all honestly, and then I spent out so many issues, and then I don't know what happened. Uh,
Adela, sometimes, like you've been objective enough with your strengths. Maybe it's one of your projects that you don't need to spend as much time on, say, maybe like your dogs or other books. Sometimes maybe we just have to know that, this is something that's not worth X number of hours. So I can just maybe do a monthly instead of a weekly. So maybe you can take that.
that's a great idea. Maybe I should just reach out to those people and tell them that, please don't expect a weekly or monthly email from me.
Survey and
I'll
ask
just
them.
email when I can. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, one more question. What is your take on the idea that training is costly?
Training is costly, as is any training, not just editing training. How do you get into a medical school? It's like, I don't know how much.
Ten
It's
times costlier,
any
man.
kind of, exactly. So any kind of specialized training will be costly. So the only way to do it is, first, if you have that, like I said earlier, if you have that investment versus expenses mentality, you need to think of it as an investment in your business. And then of course you can claim it also, right? You give your details to the CA, and you get benefits on that. So think of it as an investment, because see, if, not to compare anything, but if editor A is like just starting out, has no training, and editor B is like well trained, and think of an author who has the money, who has no problem for money. Okay, money is not an issue for them. They want the best person. Who do you think is that author going to choose?
I think if I'm the author and if I see someone
Right.
confidently project themselves and give me, look, I have this, look, I have that training, I think it's a combination of both, right? So if you are training and you're not telling them, educating them, projecting yourself in that manner professionally, then even sometimes that training might not help. So that's why going to the first thing we talked about, communication is the most critical thing for editors. So you have to be objective, you have to, project yourself in a certain way. And yes, of course, training is worth it. There is no like question.
So yeah, so think of it like you can claim better rates if you are trained than somebody who is untrained,
As simple as
and you can justify it to the customer. You can say that, see, I have this membership, I'm constantly training myself, I'm on top of things, I know what I'm talking about, right?
Mm.
You have, nobody will even question you, when they say your credentials, or they people would sometimes, I do get, but somebody else quoted that and you've quoted this and you're so expensive. And my answer is always this, that yeah, I understand, I'm not the right person for, not the right fit for every budget, but I have this, and so you have to, the author has to take a decision ultimately.
there is a phrase in Hindi, इतने में इतना ही मिलेगा. Okay, so I think we're done with all the questions. I hope people enjoy.
Awesome.
I want to quickly thank you, Dola, for your wonderful presence. I hope the rapid fire was good. Maybe we can have one more next time.
So embarrassing. I
No,
didn't know what to say to those questions, seriously.
but
It was lovely talking to you, though. Yeah,
yes,
it
and
was
thank
great
you
chat.
again, Vivek and Murugraj. And I think Vivek can come
Yeah,
give a comment for closing.
okay, great.
So thanks Dola and thanks Priya for a wonderful conversation. Like
Thanks,
we
Vivek.
didn't start well. We couldn't do it on Facebook Live, but then
Yeah,
we were live on YouTube. There
awesome.
there were a lot of people who were watching the interview, and some of
Mhm.
them are not ICF members. So I think
I
this
hope
series,
they'll join. Yeah, I
yeah,
hope they'll
this
join.
series will help us spread awareness about editing, about editors, find out what editing actually is, and obviously it gives us a break from our work. Like it, I would say this series is also going to be a antidote to isolation that work
True.
from home editors are facing. And we got to know so much about you and so much interesting information, and it's a good start, and hope you will be
Thank you.
part of our future editions also. We will switch the seats, like you will be in Priya's seat and we will have someone else in your place.
Awesome. I'd really like that. Great.
Okay,
Okay,
thanks
thanks
also.
Dola, thanks Priya,
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
and thanks Murugraj for facilitating this.
Yes, without him,
Bye
this
bye
wouldn't have
everyone.
been possible. Yeah.
Okay, bye.
Bye.